Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game. This came out in the year 2000. It was designed by Rob Daviau, Bill Sabrum, and Craig Van Ness.
The point of this game is to be the good guys either protecting Sunnydale or the evil guys trying to take over the town of Sunnydale. You're playing as one or the other, and basically you want to be the last man standing. You get to play through one of 4 storylines which mirror the 4 first seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show, which if you're a huge fan, it's so much fun to be reliving these storylines, but kind of making them your own.
Listen, the mechanics are weird. The gameplay, a little crunchy to get into, but we can guarantee that once you get into this game, you will not want to stop playing. Choosing which characters to play as at the start is fairly simple. You've got your good guys, which consist of Buffy, the Scooby Gang, Xander, Willow, all of them. And then you got your villains, determined by which story you play in, which season. So like, you can play in the first season of The Master, second season is with Angelus, third season with the Mayor, and the 4th season with Adam and parts of the Initiative.
So the rest of your setup is going to be determined by the storyline that you pick. So they all have their own little bag of minions, which is super fun, and they're going to have their own individual starting place and life points depending on which storyline you're playing. So for example, you have the Master. He has Julie Benz's character, Darla, who sires Angel, and she'll have her own place. You have the Judge, which is really fun, so he'll have Angelus, so on and so forth.
Bazooka. You can also play this game with 2 players or a team of 5. For 2 players, me and Anna, one of us chose Buffy and the good guys, and the other one chose the villains. If you're playing with more than 2, you just divvy up various roles to other players and just go from there. So the card system and the dice mechanic are what give this game its actions, and the cards are separated into various categories: weapons, research, help, evil, and artifact. Now, weapons are things like rocket launcher, crossbow, wooden stake that can do various damage types. They can even allow you to stake vampires, and if you roll good enough, to kill a vampire possibly in 1 move. Research cards allow you to heal characters, allow you to destroy certain artifact cards, and move players around the board. You've got your help cards that are various characters throughout the Buffy universe, some extremely obscure like Devin, and some that are like Wesley, Riley, and Tara that all do various attributes and help you with your gameplay. Add 10 to your movement roll or add 2 extra fight dice, stuff like that.
Then we have the evil cards. These are drawn only by the evil players. Some of the common ones that you might encounter would be the sewer crawl. There are a couple sewers on this board, and if you have this as an evil player, you can play it to crawl through the sewers and speed through town. You have summon cards. These will summon additional minions for your evil team. You have the Sire of Vampire card.
My favorite.
Similar to the way a good player might use a stake to help their fight, you can use this to make an attempt to turn a human into a vampire. Super fun. Lastly, you have the You Are Invited card. This means that you are invited into a private residence. Some of them will be all, some of them will be specific for the duration of the game. Lastly, you have your artifacts. These are a little bit more complicated. So you have 4 per game, one of which is determined by your storyline specific to that evil character. Each game gets an additional 3 artifacts chosen at random that are not part of the other storylines. Each one goes under the corner of the board, ready for retrieval by a character. Any character can land and attempt to retrieve an artifact. Simply, they must land on the square and roll their magic dice. These are these yellow dice that are part of the set. Your magic dice will be determined by the character you're playing. So somebody like Willow will have 3, whereas somebody like Xander might have 1. So definitely be a little strategic on who you choose to go retrieve the artifacts. Simply roll your number of dice, and as long as you get one of these yellow Buffy symbols come up, you have successfully retrieved the artifact. Fun fact, each character can only have 1 artifact at a time.
The dice mechanic in this game are also separated by 3 colored die. The red die here are for damage, ranging from getting stakes that can outright kill vampires, teeth that can help vampires sire good guys, and punch and jab that just does little minor damage here and there. Yellow die is to activate your research and do magic, and blue die is simply just for movement.
These, as mentioned, are used in your turn. You have 6 options for actions that you can take on your turn in any order. The 6 options are movement. This is determined by a dice roll, just like any other game. You can play a card, which will be determined by the character's starting board. You can draw a card if you land on a space that has that card type. However, be careful, this will end your movement. Fourth, you can attempt to recover an artifact. This is also determined by a dice roll, and it will end your movement. Fifth, you can trade cards with other characters. This will additionally end your movement, and you must be adjacent but not diagonal to those characters. Finally, save the best for last, we have fighting. Be very careful with fighting. This will end your entire turn. So be a little careful in what order you're doing things, and it is, again, determined by a dice roll. Weapon cards will help you here, so if you want to pick up weapons, do it before you fight.
Now within all of this, there is also this mechanic that is so unique to this game. It's silly, it's so stupid, but it's so much fun. The full moon dial, I guess you could call it.
This sits in the center of your board, and it has a pawn that sits on top of it. The pawn starts within the new moon phase, and it will move around the board in a clockwise rotation. The pawn moves if you roll a 1 or a 6 on the dice. So let's say you roll a 1 and a 6, that will mean it will move 2 times on your turn. On this dial, there are 4 areas. There's the nothing area, which is just standard gameplay. Then you have the new moon era, where the evil player can draw 2 cards for each instead of 1. Then we get to my favorite one, which is for werewolves. So in this, your good guys, Oz, get to turn into werewolf, and Veruca on the evil team also gets to turn into a werewolf. There's a few special mechanics that come along with this, but we'll let you read up on that in the rules. Finally, you have your sunrise phase. It is only 1 phase, so it's very quick. What this means is that vampires cannot go outside. If they are caught outside, when you move the dial to sunrise, they have to run into the nearest building that is not a private residence and take a ton of damage.
If you're a Buffy fan, you're going to love the various things you'll be able to do in this game. Oz can turn into a werewolf. You can sire good characters into vampires. You can restore Angelus' soul, turning him from Angelus into Angel and have him join the good guys. You can stake vampires and kill them in 1 critical hit, use magic, all kinds of stuff. So in conclusion, I personally love playing this game. Again, the rules are a little crunchy. It takes a minute to set up, but when you do, you won't be able to put it down. Like I said, I loved playing the villains in my first playthrough. I loved the various levels of the game mechanics in that I could try to fight you outright, spread my minions around, trying to take over the Scooby Gang, or when sunlight came on, it was fun to just run away as you kind of had the advantage for a little bit. Tons of fun, lots of Buffy lore and little details to dive into. Loved it.
Definitely the best game that we've found for that nostalgic early millennials vibe. On a more technical note, it has a decently high replayability because you can play different storylines and you can play a different combination of characters. Where it falls a little short for me is it is a little bit crunchy to set up and it is a little bit long to learn, but super fun once you get to that stage. Please stick with it. Please give it a try. It's awesome.